Okay. We will begin our afternoon session. I'll be moderating this afternoon. This afternoon, we've got two focuses. One is on the players in the Mojo Loop ecosystem, some of them very important and very good friends. Starting off with Interledger, some of my most favorite people in this community. So we have Alex Lakatos, who's here. Brianna is online. I will hand it over to you. Take it away.
Thank you. Thank you so much for the kind words. So I'm Alex. I'm the technology lead at the Interledger Foundation, and it's nice to be here in person. We kind of missed the boat to be in Arusha by like 2 days because our vaccinations weren't coming through. And speaking about missing the boat, Brianna was supposed to be up here with me and talk about what we do, but COVID had other plans. So she's technically somewhere upstairs in a room watching us all and watching the sessions. If you have any questions, feel free to just ask, and Brianna will know about it. But in case you don't know what Interledger is, in case you haven't heard about Interledger so far, we've prepared a little video for you to kind of refresh everybody's memory and
in our modern world, technology moves at light speed. But why has our financial infrastructure failed to keep up with the pace of change? The Interledger protocol was created to make sending money across the internet easy.
I've had to narrate this in the past. I do a very poor job of narrating the video.
In our modern world, technology moves at light speed. But why has our financial infrastructure failed to keep up with the pace of change? The Interledger protocol was created to make sending money across the internet easy. We envisioned a payments network that acts as a bridge between anyone in the entire world. Today, when we send an email, we take it for granted that once we hit send, the email will appear in the recipient's inbox almost instantly. In our modern world, technology moves at light speed. But why has our financial infrastructure failed to keep up with the pace of change? The Interledger protocol was created to make sending money across the internet easy. We envisioned a payments network that acts as a bridge between anyone in the entire world. Today, when we send an email, we take it for granted that once we hit send, the email will appear in the recipient's inbox almost instantly. It doesn't matter if you're sending from one email provider to another. It works seamlessly in a matter of seconds, not days. The Interledger protocol is designed so you can send money as easily as you can send an email. It's a network that reflects our interconnected world, accessible to all, regardless of identity, geography, or income. One that's more inclusive, without minimum transaction amounts or costly transfer fees. The closed networks of the past keep people disconnected. Our mission is to bring our financial infrastructure into the 21st century and give everyone equal access to a global financial network. Email your digital bank or digital wallet provider and ask them to consider joining us to help make the world a more interconnected place. Visit interledger.org/today to learn more.
So as the video says, the Interledger protocol was actually designed to work a little bit like the internet. It's based on the TCP/IP protocol, and it kind of follows the same principles of breaking up a big chunk of data in small little packets, sending them to the destination to the best available route, and recombining everything at the other end. If you're not familiar with it, Mojo Loop actually uses an early version of the Interledger protocol. We call that V1, and probably you've seen a lot of talk about moving or switching to V4 lately. That's the latest version. But it's designed to work literally like the internet. And in the past year, we've worked on adding an extra layer to it. And if you think about how the internet works, nobody builds on the lower levels of the internet, right? You always have a lot of things on top that make it easy to connect to the internet, access to the internet. So we've worked on a discoverability layer, which we call open payments. And open payments isn't a new concept. What changed in the past year is we went from a bunch of words on a piece of paper to an actual implementation of open payment APIs. on top of our node implementation for an Interledger node in a network, with what we call Rafiki. The open payments are designed, APIs are designed for both end users and applications on top of them that let you pay into an Interledger account without having to worry where the Interledger account is hosted, what the accounting underneath looks like, or what the capabilities of the provider are. And it's also designed for other financial institutions to connect to each other and initiate payments between them without having to worry about the route in between, about the fees that you have to do, or about what you're accepting and what you can send. One of the things that happened this year is we wanted to give people access into the accounts in a delegated fashion. You know how Apple Pay lets you pay and lets you access your account on the phone through a different provider? One of the things we didn't like about Apple Pay, we wanted to replicate some of the behavior, but we didn't like the fact that Apple Pay gets access to your entire account. There's no granular access. It's kind of wholesale. So we came up with this thing called grants, which is based on GNAP, and GNAP not in the same way that Smurf do GNAP, but GNAP is called the Grant Negotiation and Authorization Protocol. And what we've implemented for it allows you to give access to other parties into your account with limits and intervals. So you can give, for example, Apple Pay access into your account for $100 a month instead of the whole account, or you can give access to a subscription service for $5 a month, or you could make it a digital wallet that can only spend $200 as many transactions as you need, or do a single one-time payment. And where we've implemented GNAP into our node implementation, or Interledger node implementation is called Rafiki. Up until recently, we had something called the connector, which was more of a software SDK. So the legwork of implementing Interledger or building on top of the Interledger network was quite high. And we've tried during the past year to make that barrier to entry to enable Interledger access, to lower it. And the way we've done this is with the project we call Rafiki, which has all the layers of the Interledger protocol plus an application layer on top. The application layer on top is that open payment API layer, and that allows you to do payments into accounts, payments from accounts, and delegated access. Rafiki is very close to being done. It's designed to be run in account providers, what we call a digital financial service, or version of a digital financial service is called an account provider, somebody who has balances and maintains accounts for people. So that's a very wide definition. But Rafiki is supposed to be run as a service in the infrastructure of an account provider, and it allows you to do Interledger without having to worry about exactly how Interledger works. This whole talk we're having about switching to V4, Rafiki is designed so you don't have to worry about that. You just have to worry about the glue between your system and Interledger instead of having to worry that everybody else is on Interledger. It has accounting, but it doesn't concern identity, authentication. It has accounting and authorization. And if you want to use it today, it's actually available as Kubernetes Helm charts and Docker containers. This sets up a couple of Rafiki instances in front of mock account providers, lets you send payment from one and receive it at the other end, and see how a payment end-to-end functions in Interledger. We are also developing documentation for this. As you can imagine, it's a very new project, very bleeding edge. Using it hurts. And that's because all the knowledge of Rafiki is embedded in the Rafiki team. The Rafiki team is an open source team between 3 of our partner organizations, the Interledger Foundation, COIL. You've got some people from COIL here who are going to join the stage right after me, and Finboss. Finboss is a digital wallet from South Africa. So we're putting public documentation out for people. One of the other projects that we steward at the foundation is called Web Monetization. And web monetization allows websites to get paid very small amounts of money in real time for content. We've actually changed the web monetization specification this year. It used to be meta tag, and last month in Vancouver at the World Wide Web Consortium, we unveiled the new specification, which moves from link to meta. In the grand scheme of things, it's not a very big change. Like the slides don't reflect the magnitude of the change. In the world of the web, that was a massive change for us, a massive undertaking. That kind of shifts the way monetization happens, so that a certain page, instead of being paid once, can now be paid for multiple portions, multiple different times, basically allowing multiple people to get monetized at the same time. And that kind of increases the monetization stream from 1 to potentially 6 or 7 at the same time. Now, all of this was tech, and that's because I'm the tech lead at the Interledger Foundation, and I'm most comfortable talking about the tech part. But the foundation does a lot more than just the tech. The foundation also is the place that incorporates the patents, the standards, and all the IP associated with the Interledger protocol. The foundation also uses all of those patents as a way to increase financial inclusion in the ecosystem. The mission of the foundation is actually financial inclusion, and the Interledger protocol is just a means by which we try to achieve financial inclusion. We also have grants as part of this process. We've offered grants so far to numbers. 180 entities in 36 countries for a little over $13 million in the past 2 years. The latest round of grantees was announced earlier this month. There are 12 financial institutions across the world which are trying to achieve one thing: connect into the Interledger network. 5 of them are on the continent. Can't remember, I don't think there's anybody in Tanzania. They're Kenya, Uganda, Cote d'Ivoire. Can't remember what the other ones are. South Africa, yeah, South Africa. How could I forget about South Africa? Carl is never gonna let me live this down. So we've done 12 financial institutions over. The scope of the grant is 18 months to connect into the Interledger network. Some of them are quite advanced. For example, the wallet guru from the US is very close to an implementation. Some other people are trying to get the regulatory requirements in order to be able to join the Interledger network. We also fund programs with HBCUs. We've started a pilot this year with the Bowie State University, which I think currently has 17 students who are trying to use the Interledger ecosystem as a way to learn about digital financial inclusion. They're using this as their capstone project. So at the end of the semester, all the teams get to showcase their ideas and showcase the projects in front of a panel of judges from the ecosystem. We're also been engaging DFS Labs. I know some people in the room know DFS Labs or probably have worked with DFS Labs. We've engaged them for a research project and a couple of research papers across the continent. So far, we've been, so they've done an ecosystem and landscape report who's coming out now. And there'll also be later in the month, they're going to be sharing an on-the-ground research we did. A couple of weeks ago, we were in Lagos, Nigeria, on the ground, trying to see how certain parts of the economy and infrastructure worked. It reminded me a lot of our Walk the Loop experience. The picture is of they call it the cash in, cash out agent, which works very, very similar to it's probably a combination between a Wakala and the merchant we saw in a shop. They are both in shops or their own separate institution. The only difference is while in a Wakala you have different agencies and different people, different agencies, the COCI agents act as an all-in-one. So they'll have 7 different POS machines, and they'll try to make transactions for you on the POS machines, essentially giving you cash out of your account or putting cash into your bank account. They work with apps and a bunch of other mobile money, for example, a bunch of other options. So they're a walking Wakala, basically a walking Wakala. The difference is because they're a walking Wakala, people kind of just call them up and they can be anywhere you want instead of you having to go to them. It was a very interesting experience. We also got to meet a lot of the regulators in Nigeria and a bunch of startups, banks, the national switch, and we got to learn a lot about the pain points they have in making payments. And the biggest, I'm not going to spoil the report. The report is going to come out in a while, and we're doing research like this in South Africa, and here with being in Zanzibar. One of the other things we're doing is we are trying to engage with the standards bodies that host a lot of our standards. So for example, the Webinization Standards lives with the World Wide Web Consortium. They have a very similar convening to this called TPAC. We're trying to engage with all of these institutions, trying to find partners to support the standard. At TPAC, for example, Google and Apple both shared interest in webinization and putting Interledger into a browser. So we're working actively with Chrome to have Interledger enabled access into Chrome behind the flag for next year. One of our other partners is Mojaloop, probably the reason we're here. And we've been working on trying to find a way to put Rafiki in front of, or act as a gateway to a Mojaloop hub by essentially being a proxy in any of the financial services inside the hub and translating from an Interledger network, messages from an Interledger network into a Mojaloop hub. Essentially being a converter between V4 and V1 messages. That's just started. We've gotten to the point where I think last time at the last community call, we've presented our idea and nobody said no. So we are putting together a team to start developing this in November 1st. Hopefully by the next time this convening is happening, we're going to have a little demo for you all. We've engaged in various different advocacy levels so far. One of them is with partners like Mojaloop. The other one is with developers at large at developer conferences. But I think the most exciting one for me personally is we've engaged with regulators and governing bodies across the world. For example, in the EU, we've been invited by the European Union in front of a commission to kind of see how digital infrastructure in Europe can move forward. No surprise, we showed them Interledger protocol and we got people excited enough to put out a report about that, about the digital future of Europe that mentions us. We've also worked with various different regulators across the world to try to get advocacy up and running. And in terms of what the future holds for us, I feel like we are going to focus a lot on two things next year. One of them is a public test network for Interledger. Right now, if you want to try out Interledger, I feel like the biggest problem in implementing Interledger is finding a way to safely develop and test before you go live. Going live is not the problematic part. Trying to develop until you go live in safety. So we're putting together the public test network that would allow anyone to test out various different levels of Interledger, from trying to join the Interledger network to trying to develop products and software on top of an Interledger network for accounts connected to the Interledger. And the other big project we have next year is called Rafiki Self-Service. And that's because today, if you want to put Rafiki in front of your infrastructure, you have to talk to one of the 10 people in the world who know how Rafiki works and can help you integrate. We'd like to make that so anybody can develop for the Interledger or join the Interledger without having to talk to a single human being. Probably that's me as a developer who I don't like stepping up or talking to people. We're trying to get so nobody has to talk to the gatekeepers in order to join the decentralized network that is the internet for money. One of the other things we're working on, and Michael and Paul are going to be there, hopefully, fingers crossed, is we're putting together an Interledger Summit in New Orleans next month. We've already got about 150 people there, or who want to be there. We'd love some more. If you want to join us at the Interledger Summit, a lot of the people present in the ecosystem, including Mojaloop, is going to be there. There's still time to get your ticket. Please consider joining us at the summit. You're going to hear about not only some of the things we've been working on, and I've been teasing some of them here. There's going to be a lot of new things coming out just for the summit, a lot of new announcements made there. Even if you don't join us, we have a live stream. I highly encourage you to watch that. It's going to be highly entertaining. And if you don't want to get involved with Interledger in person at the summit, we have a bunch of other different ways you could find out about what we do. You could try to participate. We have a active Slack community where people kind of get their answers, their answers for all the problems related to the Interledger protocol they use. We have the website that kind of tries to describe the way the protocol works. And we have a community full of the current grantees. All the people who got the grant will, every 6 months, will give people a status update or a grant report about their current grant. You can see all the projects as they're being developed on the community forum. And with that, I'd like to thank you. Brianna would also like to thank you as well from up there in her room. If you have questions, I think I have like a minute or two for questions. Otherwise, okay, questions. I have questions, yes, in an orderly fashion.
So when you're talking about the safety front end, you had a picture there. Are you talking about a call that is made to a Rafiki instance, or are you talking about an API? What actually is it?
So there's no front end. The interface, right, for a Rafiki instance is the account provider has a GraphQL interface to manipulate everything that happens in a Rafiki instance. There's also a webhook surface that whenever something happens inside the Rafiki instance that you could act upon, will surface that to your webhook. So for example, there's an incoming payment or your outgoing payment completed, or somebody wants a quote from you that says, how much is it gonna cost me to move money through your node? You get all of that as webhooks, and then you get, as an administrator of a Rafiki instance, you get the GraphQL endpoint where you can tell Rafiki what to do in an Interledger context, right? As an account holder, not an account provider. So as an account holder, you get the Open Payments APIs on top, which are REST APIs, which allow you to get information from a payment pointer. Because a payment pointer, up until recently, a payment pointer used to be an address, a physical address in the Interledger network, and a shared secret for you to initiate a stream connection to it. Now, the payment pointer evolved past just having protocol details in it. You have information about the account holder, so you can validate the account holder and validate that the payment pointer belongs to the person who you want to send money to. And those are the exposed interfaces from Rafiki. There's also the, we call that GNAP, that exposes a flow for authentication and identity provision. So it kind of lets you say, me as, let's use your example from earlier today, right? Me as the Bank of Ancient Rome, right, or ancient Greece. I want access to your account, so I can debit from your account whenever I need to, instead of you having to do that manually. So it allows you to do all that, and those are the three surfaces Rafiki enables. Okay, yeah.
Were you here earlier when we were talking with the Nexus people in the presentation about Nexus?
Yes.
And really to know, I mean, for those of us who are clearly very close to what you guys are doing at Interledger and very close to what Nexus is doing, what are your thoughts on that? And how is Interledger working, thinking about, have you thought about what they're doing, thought about how to plug into it? Yeah, get your views on it.
So I'm going to talk about how we thought about integrating. And that's because they're a network of money, right? And Interledger was made to connect together networks of money, systems of money, right? And maybe a central bank is a network. Maybe one individual bank is a network. Nexus as a whole is a network of money, right? So we tried to plug in wholesale instead of trying to connect to every single entity on Nexus, connecting to Nexus as a system, as a whole, right? That's what the connection point would look like. And that's a very good example because it was designed as an interoperability protocol, right? Nexus already comes with messaging, Nexus already comes with addressing. Interfacing an Interledger address and a Nexus address is just the connection point. basically. It's very similar to how we're thinking about the modular loop network, right? A modular loop hub is a network of money. And instead of connecting to every single participant or plugging directly into the hub, we're connecting at the edge of the network, and that enables connectivity in the rest of the network. And we're thinking about very similarly about Nexus.
Sorry, but if I can, Michael's point earlier when we were talking about Nexus of there's actually not a messaging problem, but like a fundamental, we actually transmit information in different orders and have different requirements of that information. Michael, are we closer to the way ILPv4 does than we are to, I mean, is it the same problem, I guess is my question.
So in both cases,
it is the same problem, yes. In both cases, we're proposing a generic cross-network provider, which will enable any modular loop scheme to connect to any, in this case, Interledger institution. So effectively, any institution that can use the Rafiki protocol to route a payment can route to the cross-network provider for a given modular loop scheme, and through that to any of the participant institutions in that modular loop scheme. And that essentially is the same topology that Nexus is talking about.
I think we're out of time. There was a question at the back. If it's a short question, we'll do it now. Otherwise, I'll be around all day, and please feel free to ask me anything. Thank you so much.